the other thing is you're supposed to be sure that you talk fairly close to this microphone, otherwise they can't hear you. And that's not so much in here, that's on the projection. Talk close to the mic. Yeah. So some people have. Oh, here's Barbara. Well, folks, we can get things started now because Barbara's here. I'd like to welcome you all to the fourth quarter of the Residence Council quarterly reports. And in order to get this started, we would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and we would like to have our Vice President do that. Taver?
Before we start with the pledge, last Thursday was December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, 82nd anniversary. If you all would join me in a moment of silence to remember all those who have served us in the past and serving us in the present. Thank you. The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Taver, for remembering that. One of the things I'd like to talk about to start with just a little bit is volunteerism. And you see people up here that volunteer. There's a lot of people out there that volunteered. And I'd like to pick on one person that is what I call a super volunteer. And this person actually graduated from Ohio State and went on to get a job at Penn State, and he was a teacher there. And then he went on from that, he got in administration. He got pretty high up in the organization. But yet when he left, he took a passion. His passion was photography. And he's done a lot of photography here. He takes pictures for the portal, for the magazine, for anything. If you're going to have a 50th anniversary, he'll do that for you or whatever. I mean, he puts on displays. And he's really a person that has volunteered a lot. And that's not his profession, that's his passion. And that's Bob Dunham. Bob, would you please stand up? He won't tell you he graduated from Ohio State because he is true blue and white. The other thing is that we've got a person here that has done a fantastic job in getting activities taken care of, and that's our own Candace. She and her group. I can't thank her enough. And one of the programs that we had here a while back, we had a big band sound, and he was talking about people in the big band that, past performers and all that stuff. Well, he had hot button mine. He talked about Doris Day, and Doris Day was my heartthrob all the way through high school and college until I met somebody by the name of Eva. So Doris Day is number 2 now. So in order to get this thing started, we'd like to welcome the new residents. Now, to be honest with you, there's a lot of new residents here tonight, so what I want to do is call your name, and if you would, please just stand up to be recognized. We really appreciate you. And one of the things you're going to find out is there's a lot of things you can volunteer at. You've already heard one of them, and that's like the photography thing, who's not a photographer. And I'm going to tell you something about these folks up here later on, what they've done. And this will give you an opportunity to see where you want to fit in. And if you don't want to volunteer, that's okay too. You know, there's 700 and some residents here, and but there's a lot of spots. If there's something here you don't see and would like to see it, like Bob saw the photography thing, and he worked that into a real fine situation. So let's start off with Deanna Arsenault. Deanna? She's got a huge last name, but I think Arsenault is the way. Is that proper pronunciation? Arsenault, sorry. And the other is John and Catherine Bonder. Thank you. And Mary Decker. Okay. Craig Gallagher and Christiana Mills. They haven't here, but I think they will be here. Craig Gallagher's mother lives in here. Jim and Margaret Goldschneider. I know they're here. Jack and Linda Minter. Jack and Linda Minter. There you go. David and Susan Richard. Lucy Shevers. Lucy, thank you. There's one lady right there I know is going to get involved. She is a firecracker. Robert Winton and Karen Ryder. Thank you, Bob. And Michelle and Jane Doherty. Michael and Jane Doherty. Excuse me. Richard and Linda Over. Pardon? Yeah, I got that written down here. Dick, it was Richard. It's Dick and Susie. I think this is an all-time record for new residents coming to the report, the quarterly report. This is the last quarter, obviously, of this year. And we'll go into now the reports. And for the reports, we'll do that in alphabetical order. We'll start out with Kathy Summers, who's the activities, and then she will introduce the next speaker. So Kathy, would you take it over?
Thank you, Jerry. I have had the privilege of working with these amazing committee members this year. Leslie Blair, Joan Cornett, Jackie Culhane, Joan Fursey, Ed Grohl, Mary Mead Hollyfield, Dot Hosterman, Carol Jesse, Noel Schomburg, and Deborah Sheffield, as well as Council Rep Rick Larkin and Staff Liaison Candace DiGiovanni, who has been wonderful to work with. It has been an honor and a pleasure to serve the residents of John Knox Village for the past 2 years as chair of the Activities Committee. Some of the things we have accomplished over the past 2 years are the studio, the new arts and crafts room, started in the Activities Committee as a proposal. It was tweaked, then approved by the committee, presented to Residents Council who approved it, and then it went to Joe Trainer. It was a long process, but finally opened on the 3rd floor of the Citrus Building last week. If you haven't been there, you should go take a look. It's pretty amazing. It is open as a workspace for all residents, and they're looking for resident instructors, so if there is an art or craft that you are good at and are willing to share your knowledge, please contact either Candace or Carol Jesse. We got 2 new pickleball courts. Again, a proposal was passed through the Activities Committee, then Resident Council, then Joe Trainer. We now have 4 available pickleball courts to play on. We cooperated with the Employee Appreciation Fund to help with the scoring for the annual cornhole tournament. We delivered 2 holiday cards for every resident at Majestic Oaks and 3 to each resident at Oakview Suites. Thank you to everyone who contributed cards. We ran another successful food drive for the Orange City Elementary School Food Pantry, collecting even more items than last year. The first annual Volunteer Fair and Volunteer Appreciation Day were both well attended, and several groups signed up new volunteers. We wrote a grant for karaoke equipment, and the JKV Foundation provided the money to purchase better karaoke equipment. Karaoke will now be held quarterly, with the next one in March. It will be in the Treetop Lounge, but the 2 following that in June and September will be held on the Valencia pool deck. A non-JKV resident can now ride the bus to events if there is room on the bus. They can't displace a resident. The Activities Committee and Resident Council would like to thank all of the residents who give so much of their time to entertaining us. Also, a special thanks to Candace and Gail for all they do for us and all the great activities they continue to come up with. Please record your volunteer hours in the notebook by Resident Services. Next up, Rick Larkins, Communications.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to take this first opportunity in my time for talking to thank the members of the group that I work with each month, and they certainly go out of their way to enhance the services and things that are provided to us here at John Knox, and they work very hard at it, and they do a great job. I would like to talk a little bit about an initiative we have going on in the portal. Vibrant, our portal contractor, is in the process of revising the behind-the-scenes programs that works there as part of their initiative to improve the performance and increase the speed of its searches. If you've tried searching, you know it can take time, and you do need some patience. We here in John Knox are also taking steps to help improve some of the response time in the portal, and that's by reducing some of the papers and or information that's there that is either duplicative or is out of date, and that information or those pages do slow down the searches, so we want to improve that by reducing that, and that is being worked on by staff and by resident to reduce that and get rid of the outdated pages and bring more consistency and standardization to the portal. Knox TV, the channels, as voted upon by us residents, have been submitted to Centrix for implementation, and once that has been accomplished, a new channel listing will be printed and distributed. So we can look forward to that coming along in the relatively near future. And my final item is goes to the library, which is a favorite spot of mine. And the library staff has completed an inventory of the library's book collection, and we're currently in the process of updating the card catalogs, both the manual, the old paper one, and the online one, so that you will have a better idea of what books are in our collection and what's available to you and is available to check out. So that's all I have for my quarterly report, and I'd like to ask Mike Marks next to come up.
Thanks, Rick. The Employee Appreciation Fund Committee took on 3 extra projects the last 2 years. We run a putting contest, a cornhole event, tournament, and the Thankful Card program, which all 3 of them were very successful in highlighting the program. And I want to also thank Phyllis Dale for promoting the Employee Appreciation Fund at her events as well. The important thing that I want to get at is the volunteers on my committee. I'm the only one on the committee that was willing to get up here and talk, so that's all I have to do is talk. My committee had to actually do everything. Joan Cornett was the liaison with Majestic Oaks and Oakview Suites to keep them apprised and the families apprised of our programs, and she did a fantastic job. Mary Ellen Humphreys was the secretary, and she kept me organized as she possibly could. It was a losing battle, but she battled for 2 years to help me out. Ann Gillis, she's been on committees for many, many years around here, and she accepted the challenge to do 2 more years of the collections for the committee, and the committee wouldn't have worked without her. Sherry Clark was her partner in crime. They were unbelievable. It's every week for 104 weeks, collecting the money and getting me the results. Donna Rieger was very successful in organizing every event. She got the volunteers, got them trained, and pulled off every event, and not having to do anything to organize events made it look easy, but she did all the work behind the scenes. Jean Marks, I think I've met her. She decorated for all the events. She's well known as a decorator around here, and she was behind the scenes, was the chairman, and I just said, yes, dear. The most important, the very tip-top part of the committee is the JKV residents. Without your support all through the years, this program has become vital to the community in so many ways because of all that the residents contribute to the program and to the events. And they do it all for recognizing JKV employees. They're important to us, and you show it. And 367 of the employees of the 500 showed up on Employee Appreciation Day because they really liked how they're received. They like to thank us, and we like to thank them. And over 60 volunteers were needed to pull that off, and you all did a great job of recognizing the employees. And end with, we raised $438,687.62, and the checks were written for all but 5 cents of that. All the money goes to the employees, and I think we should be proud of that. Bill? Oh. Oh, Jerry. I knew I'd screw up.
Well, as the fourth quarter comes to an end, I wish to thank the Facilities Committee members for their thought and suggestions during the past year. Susan Pogue will be leaving us to become the chairperson of activities, and Doug Church, Bob Mayberry, Floyd Prescott, Wayne Ash, and long members Lonnie Ricks and Greg Fakula will continue. And we have a great team, and Robert Stevenson will be joining us next year. There's a lot of things been going on. One of the most recent one is that under the guidance of Director of Facilities Mark Otto, a cross-training program has been initiated whereby, for example, a plumber technician will learn how to master electricity and help out on that point. And I think it's something really worthy, and as a matter of fact, Mr. Otto is taking approximately 20% of his time to make sure that it is successful. Everybody knows that the roofing project was delayed. Well, the reason is everybody asked me why it was delayed. Well, all the employees had to go through level 2 background check, which is necessary and something that John Knox absolutely wants. Doug, is Doug here? I guess not. Is a somewhat retired landscape architect and was asked if he could use his knowledge and experience to see if he could do something better and less costly for the Trafford's sidewalk project. Well, he met with Mr. Trainer and others, and he presented his thoughts and drawings, and in short, he made a home run. Construction will begin this month or in January. Further, Trafford Old Sidewalk from Jackwell to Westlake will be removed, and a new 5-foot wide sidewalk will be put down. Slowing down a little bit, transportation vehicles made 1,185 trips in November, and for a total of 10,396 miles. What could we do without them? The housekeeping department cleaned 1,506 units during the month, and 35 units received their annual cleaning. Security had 40 responses with a response time of just a little over 2 minutes. We received 47 comment cards, of which 37 were positive, and I thank you very much for listening. Excuse me. Bill Haar. This is Bill Haar.
Thank you, Jerry. And good afternoon, everyone. The members of the Finance Committee are Marcia Berg, Linda Kristovic, Linda Somm, Clyde Stickney, Doris Taylor, and the CFO, Cynthia Pohl, is our staff liaison. And Jerry is our resident council representative. In the last few months, questions have arisen about tax exemption status in nonprofits. So today I'd like to discuss the topic of John Knox Village, a nonprofit tax-exempt corporation. The English language, being what it is, can be confusing at times, and the terms nonprofit and not-for-profit are no exception. Surprisingly, there are no legal definitions for the two terms. However, there is convention, and conventionally, nonprofits are larger organizations that are incorporated, serve a public good, and qualify for 501c3 federal tax exemption. John Knox is rightfully considered a nonprofit organization. The following discussion applies to tax-exempt nonprofits. Nonprofits are formed to carry out a public purpose. John Knox's 990 federal tax filings stated mission reads, to meet the physical and social and psychological needs of the aging and to contribute to their health. Well, that seems like a pretty good public purpose. Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code allows for federal tax exemption if certain conditions are met, and we've met those. Nonprofits have no owners. I'll come back to this in just a minute. What they have are stakeholders who have a stake in the successful operation of the organization. That's all of us. We have a stake in John Knox being successful. Stakeholders have no legal ability to profit personally, hence nonprofit. The parties responsible to operate the nonprofit for the stakeholders are the members of the board of directors. John Knox's board members are pictured in the hall in the center. A somewhat confusing characteristic is that a nonprofit can't be sold. They can be dissolved and the assets distributed to another nonprofit after all debts are settled. The reason they can't be sold is the fact that there are no owners to pay money to. Okay, we call it a nonprofit, but JKV shows a profit. Net earnings and surplus funds may be built up and invested for the organization's future operational use. We want this to happen and is instrumental in keeping John Knox debt-free. As with for-profit businesses, a nonprofit prepares financial reports at the end of their fiscal year to show how the staff has managed the organization's affairs. Our fiscal year is a calendar year. There has been more than a little confusion here at John Knox about the necessity of having volunteers to maintain tax exemption status. There is no such requirement in the 501c3 tax code. Okay, on to the numbers. These slides are all from the third quarter Office of Insurance Regulation report that we just went over last week, actually, at our meeting. The total assets as of the third quarter are $192.4 million. Total liability, $65.2 million. Total net assets, $127.1 million. On to the income statement. Revenues were $35.5 million, expenses $32.7 million. We report three important ratios on the OIR reports. They are days cash on hand. We reported 621.5 days. That's versus a statutory requirement of 100 days. Occupancy was reported at 79.2%. That's versus a statutory of 80. Because we have no debt, we do not report a debt service ratio. Now, while the occupancy is slightly below minimum, according to Florida Statute 651, no regulatory action takes place until 2 of the 3 ratios are below minimum. Next, we have Tony Arctic there with the Food Committee.
Thanks, Bill. Let's start with committee membership, including Ken Falter, our council rep, Jerry Hazley, secretary, Leslie Blair, Miles Hardy, Tom Harmon, Linda Christofic, Patty Mitchell, and Rachel Winter. Our staff support includes Dim, Stan DaCosta, and Chef Raven. I'd like to do a recap of the year rather than just the quarterly report, so I'll start at the beginning. The resident survey last year had a number of findings in the dining area, but by far the 3 biggest complaints were variety of food choices, inconsistent level of service for the dining staff, and inconsistent quality of food being served. Dim, Stan, and Chef Raven put together an action plan for each area, and I'd like to review how they did. First, variety of food choices. Bay was opened with a menu including new appetizers, entrees, and desserts. Then Bistro opened with an all-new menu, including a daily special. The Crane's menu was expanded and now features daily as well as weekly specials. Valencia and the Grill also have new items. and Dim and Chef Raven are making an effort to change the menus on a periodic basis. Along these lines, I've heard many people complain that we just don't have enough choices. Well, I looked at our menus and found that each day there are 90 different entrees available, 37 sides, 14 appetizers, and 9 desserts. And that doesn't count soup, salad bars, or the scoop. Second was an inconsistent level of service from the dining staff. DIM now has daily meetings with their staff to review what the specials are, what bread is being served, as well as soup, vegetables, and desserts. The employees must then sign to indicate that they understand each item, so they can't say they didn't know. You probably have seen the results of this training, with tables being cleared more quickly and servers picking up used dishes on their way back to the kitchen. Chef Raven is conducting training to help make food preparation more consistent. It's important that you participate in this process with your comment cards to let them know what meals were particularly good or not so good, preferably on the portal, which really speeds up the process. Here are just some of the changes that have been made as a result of your comment cards. We now have pizza and nachos at the bistro. A new vegetarian menu has been added at Crane's, and we recommend you give it a try, especially the eggplant parmesan. We've improved the nutritional and gluten-free labeling on menus, as well as identifying which items may be ordered either gluten-free or regular. We now feature salt substitutes on request, and we're working with Advent Health on a diabetes education system. To give you an idea of the workload of our dining staff, last month, nearly 19,000 meals were served. Most of those were at the grill, but Crane's had about 20% of the total. Bay averaged 4%, Valencia 5%, Bistro 3%, Curbside 10%. When you're talking about 19,000 meals, that's a lot of food that has to be planned for, ordered, delivered, prepared, inspected, served, and cleaned up. Not to mention the amount of staff turnover we have as we compete with restaurants where tipping is allowed. With the volume that we're dealing with, it's not surprising that sometimes mistakes will be made. When a mistake is made, it's up to you to make that fact known. Otherwise, improvements can't be made. If you're not satisfied with your meal, you can send it back, or you can ask for a dining room manager to help. And if you're still not satisfied, you can ask the manager to take the charge off your bill. In other dining news, the committee is developing a flyer to try to put dining information on a single page. This will include the regular hours, telephone numbers, and dress code. Keep an eye out for the flyer in an upcoming Village Weekly. And finally, a gathering table is available in the Crane's dining room. This is for residents who dine alone or couples who want to meet new residents. Seatings are available at 12, 4, and 6. Just let the host know that you'd like to be seated at the gathering table. In conclusion, John Knox is here for you. If you want a healthy diet, you can have it. If you want comfort food, it's available. And if you want breakfast at dinner time, go for it. I thank you for your attention. Next up is me, pinch hitting for Ken Falter, who can't be here today. Good afternoon. This being my last quarterly report, I want to recognize my committee members and those who have interacted with them. Tony Artigler has been an excellent council rep and has taken over when I have been unavailable. I will comment on Mary Brown and Mary Ellen Humphreys later. Ellen Klein has faithfully communicated with the clinic and pharmacy staffs for 2 years to provide us with updated reports on their caseloads. Joyce Monaco has faithfully worked with the fitness center for 2 years to provide us with monthly activity numbers as well as additional programs being carried out by them. Bev Schlecht has provided reports on the activities of assisted living for 2 years. Her presentations make us feel like we are actually there. Nicole Vega is our management liaison and faithfully sits through our entire committee meetings, gives excellent reports not only on management issues of health care interest, but also on home health and outpatient physical therapy. The administrators and activities coordinators at Assisted Living have done an excellent job of reporting on the many activities and entertainment for the residents. Talina Hendrickson's fitness classes, programs, activities, and her personal training sessions continue to exceed my expectations of what one individual can accomplish. Nicole Vega and the Angels of Home Health are wonderful in working with those recovering from illness or accidents. The nurses, therapists, etc., as well as companions and nurses who help keep folks in their housing units for as long as possible by providing support for so many things, such as medication assistance, shopping, companionship, and dog walking. Patricia Caxco runs the inpatient rehabilitation unit at Majestic Oaks, and she and her staff do an excellent job of preparing our residents to return to their units after illness or mishaps. Samantha Baker and her staff bring a wide variety of activities and entertainment to all residents of MO, long-term care, memory care, and rehabilitation. And don't forget that Majestic Oaks has been rated #1 nursing home in the country. And at Oak Park, we have Mitch Skelton, Kelly Corley, and their staff in the pharmacy, Martha Cullen and Celia in the clinic, and Kyle Martian in outpatient rehab, doing excellent work day in and day out. Mary Ellen Humphreys has been the project manager for Lilly Late in Life Issues program for the past 2 years. She worked very hard in 2022 when we developed and designed the program, and in 2023 in getting these 4 presentations done. I can't thank her enough for all the hard work she has put in this program. She was also helped by a Lilly Advisory Committee of residents, and I thank them also for all their help. Next year, there will be presentations on taxes, budgeting, and death and dying. For this past year, Mary Brown has assumed the responsibility for health communications. This program started in 2021, but this has been its most productive year thanks to Mary's hard work and talents. The 8 hints produced this year are shown. All have appeared or are about to appear in the Village Weekly, and some have also been in the Village Life magazine. All healthcare hints and information from all Lilly presentations are on the portal under Resources, then Resident Organization Documents, then Healthcare Committee, or from a link at the lower right of the Village Update page. For those of you who do not believe that submitting comments does any good, let me note that both the Lilly program and the healthcare hints resulted from comments and queries received from residents. And now I'd like to introduce Jerry Altenhoff, Chair of the Nominations Committee.
Thank you, Tony. Good afternoon, friends and neighbors. You can see my fine nominations committee up here behind me. I worked with Sherry Clark, Taver Cornett, Mike Marks, and Steve Biederman. We brought you 5 ready, willing, and able candidates who will now serve 2 years on the resident council. We thank these new members, some of whom are here today. Grant Hammond will be here chairing the Healthcare Committee. Larry George will be here chairing the Nominations Committee. Susan Pogue is here. She will be following Kathy Summers in the Activities Committee. Bill Sharp will set in for the Food Committee, take over from Tony. And Joe Rudolph will work with the Employee Appreciation candidate. Thank you, Joe. And I think I skipped one name. Tony Articlair will definitely be serving us as the vice president of the resident council next year. All of these committees that you've heard from today need your help. They cannot do the work alone, and without these committees, no one would be working on your behalf. You have many fine activities. The Activities Committee does so much for you. The Employee Appreciation does fun type things for you to do, but they can't do it alone. You need to help us out. I stressed last time when I spoke with you at the third quarter about if you're sitting in your house and you're thinking, yeah, maybe I'd like to volunteer. I'd like to find out more about the resident council. I'd like to be on a committee. Talk to any committee person that you see here or any of these new people that are coming on. That works. I have a name that was given to me yesterday by Kathy Summers. John Bordeaux, am I saying your name right? Bondu has asked to be talked to about the committee, and someone will be contacting you in January. Starting in January, Larry and his committee will be looking for 6 candidates for chairmanship next year. And if you don't want to be the chairman, let him know that maybe you would like to serve on a committee of some sort. That all can be arranged, and it works when we all work. And I wish you happy holidays and a health and happy new year. And this is my swan song. It was fun. I enjoyed every minute of working with the council. Thank you.
To kind of wrap this up, I think you made a wise choice, those of you who are new here, to come to this place. And a few things that I didn't realize when we came here. You know, this is non-for-profit. You got quite a discussion about what non-for-profit does. It means the profits stay here. Second thing is, are we solvent? We are extremely solvent. Out of the 83 CCRCs in Florida, there's only 2 that have no debt, and this is one of them, and it has been for years. Although we did suffer through a time when we were almost bankrupt at one time, through the work of the board and a fellow by the name of Barker, who this center was named after, it brought us out of that debt. And we are way beyond that now. And you got some of the finances from Bill, which is really great. But the place is not only solvent, but it's a great place to be, and there's a little over 700 residents. We're going to 800 when we finally fill this place up. But I think that you made a wise choice. The second thing is that I'd like to recognize the board members to give you an idea who was actually helping out in this area. You got Jerry Altenoff right here, who is retired school teacher, but she missed her calling. She's an absolutely outstanding cook and artist. And you've got Kathy Summers. Now, Kathy, you may not believe it, but she loves to ride Harley motorcycles, either in the front or the back. And she is a CPA. And she's actually kind of halfway in dress because she's got a Harley Davidson shirt on. Then you got Jerry Yaris. Jerry Yaris went to college on a track scholarship, and he ran a number of businesses. So he's been a wonderful volunteer, and he's got one more year to serve. Then down here you got Rick Larkin. Rick Larkin retired as with the VA. And he actually was a nursing home administrator, but his real passion is bridge. And he teaches bridge here, puts the class on Monday for people to play bridge, and he is a world-class bridge player. He's got a lot of points, but he is really, really good, and he's very willing to share any knowledge he has. And you got Bill Mahar. Bill Mahar stepped in when our finance manager left and went back to the villages. But Bill was actually an insurance administrator, and likes reading all those facts and figures and all that stuff, which kind of put me to sleep. But he stepped in and did a phenomenal job, as you could tell from his report. Now you got Tony. Tony is going to be going on, but he came on, so he's going to serve a 2.5-year term. But he filled in for the food manager who left, the food committee chairman, and he's going to be vice president next year. But I just can't thank him enough. Those two guys stepped in when people stepped out for various reasons and did a phenomenal job. And then you got Mike Marks. Now, Mike Marks is a graduate of West Point. Oh, no, I got that wrong again. He's a graduate of the Naval Academy, and he was very high up in his graduating class, therefore he got the option to be a pilot. So he was a pilot in there, retired from there and went into the airlines and became a pilot there. And he retired after 20-some years in the airlines. And he and his wife have blessed us with their presence here. And they do many, many things in here. But Mike is quite a guy. Now, one of the other people we have is Taver Cornett. Now, Taver Cornett will be the president next year. He's the president-elect. And he was on the John Knox board for almost 30 years, past president of the board, and decided to come in here. And he's lived here for a number of years, so if you need a doctor or a lawyer or somebody to take care of your garden, that's the guy, because he's got contacts all over the place. But what a phenomenal guy he is, and he's got the experience. And then myself, Jerry Harrod, I retired from General Motors, but that's back when I worked for the accessory division, which was Delco Remy, and it's no longer there. It got disbanded, so I did a real good job there. But now they have no accessory division. It's just GM, and they spun all that accessory division off. So this is your present board. You heard something about your new board, and before we finalize the meeting, I'd like to call to Taver, and he wants to say a few things. Taver?
Thank you, Jerry. I hesitate to make any corrections in your presentation, but we have a delightful lady sitting in the back of the room without whom we could not survive. This is our Secretary of the Resident Council, Barbara Brown. She's going to continue next year, and she's going to be the person who keeps me straightened out. I'm really going to enjoy this coming year. I've enjoyed the last year. It's been a great group to work with. Jerry has gone above and beyond the call of duty to work with the resident council and point it in the direction that it's going now. And the resident council is your voice in John Knox Village. And we are here to listen to all your concerns and all your comments and try and evaluate what they are and how they can be worked with. So anytime you've got an issue, please bring it to us, and we'll be glad to work with you and the rest of the council and see what can happen from there. We really had a great leader in Jerry this year, and I want to offer him a round of applause. I'm looking forward to working with the new council and the ones that have volunteered to stay on for another term, and we hope that it will just continue in the direction it's going. So, Jerry?
Thanks, buddy. He brought up something else. Barbara Brown is what I left off. Barbara Brown is the secretary this year, will be secretary next year, but she was a school teacher. But what her real passion is travel. And if you go to her place, you'll see on the wall a map of the world, and there's pins from all over the world where she's been. So if you want to talk about some place that you were thinking about going, that's the lady to see. She also had a motorhome that she traveled with, she and her dog for years, and they'd go to campgrounds, and she'd be a campground helper or whatever it is. So she's gone all over the United States and that, but that's her real passion. And I'm sorry I left you out. Barbara, I had your number one on the list, but I went right by it. So at this time, I'd like to end the meeting, but remember, there's a meeting after this where the John Knox Board, who's actually the ruling people here, and they hire a manager, and the manager will give us a little talk, which is Joe. So I'd like to thank you again for, especially the new people, for coming out. And I'd like to thank you all for coming, and bless you and have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bless you all.